A haunted house. Every culture across the globe has its own versions of demons, ghosts, and devils, all the things that go bump in the night. Modern scholars surmised that unseen supernatural beings were their way of understanding the world of microbes. Elaborate metaphors to explain the impossible. But what if the old ones knew something the new ones didn't? What if the Age of Enlightenment led us into the darkness? What if all the things that go bump in the night were real as the microbes we now can see? What if the fence stretched before them, old, rusted, and broken? It barely deserved to be called a fence, just as the thing it guarded could hardly be called a house. It was more of a ruin in a vaguely house-shaped form, with all the windows boarded up, the porch long gone, the walls more holes. Even though the door looked ready to fall, it was still on its hinges, so that was something. At least the roof was mostly intact. "Are we sure about this?" Jenny asked. "Don't be a scaredy cat," Dean said, feeling his grin widen. Her fear was the best part of this whole mess. "We go in, play the game, and get out, and have some fun on the side," James said, his eyes shining in the moonlight. Tina, his girlfriend, shivered at the prospect. "Don't be disgusting," Jenny said. "Oh, now you are a prude?" James asked. Dean frowned. It was true that Jenny was no prude, but she was not really kinky either. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. "Let's go!" James pushed the fence in. The whole structure groaned and screamed, but it opened. "Honey, please!" Jenny grabbed his arm. "Come on. There is no such thing as ghosts." Dean pulled her along, and she followed reluctantly, the Ouija board under her arm. "The ghost of the old man haunts this property," James whispered in a mocking tone. "And his best friend, and definitely not his gay lover." Dean mocked, pushing the door open. "We accept your lifestyle, he said, and the others laughed. Well, the guys did. Tina and Jenny remained silent, rubbernecking around as if truly afraid. "There are no such things as ghosts, relax," Dean said, taking the board. What about homeless people, junkies?" Jenny asked. "Some out-of-town creeps?" Tina asked. "That's a reasonable fear, right, Dean?" James lifted his shirt, showing off his Desert Eagle and badge. "I agree, James," Dean said, showing his gun and badge. "You told me you left that thing in the car," Tina yelled. "I left a piece in the car," James grinned, spread the board on the floor, setting the planchette in the center of it. "Let's play." Dean smiled at his best friend. "All right, everyone, fingers on. Let's see if the old man is still here." "No," Tina crossed her arms. "Oh, come on, honey, just one small game," James said. "One game?" Tina asked, looking at Jenny, and both slowly nodded and finally touched the planchette. The house groaned. The girls yelped, but held their fingers on the planchette. Dean grinned. "Is anyone here?" The planchette jerked. The girls froze. "That was you!" Tina slapped James, and he burst out laughing. "It's not funny." Dean pushed the planchette, spelling out a single word. S-C-A-R-D-Y. "Asshole!" Jenny snapped, pulling back. Someone banged on the door, and all of them jumped. Jenny almost ended up on his head. Carla poked her head in, smiling like a madwoman. "Gotcha!" Luis walked in behind her, grinning like a fool. "You are stupid," Jenny muttered, pulling back. "This would be stupid," Luis said, showing an old book, the leather covers cracking. "What's that?" James asked. "The book of my abuela's ghost and demon protections," he grinned. "We could spell one name out on the board." "Come on, guys," Jenny shouted. "That is insane. That's fucking awesome." Dean's grin grew, watching his girlfriend shiver in fear. She was so cute when she was afraid. "Let's find a sick one." Luis began mumbling in Spanish, his own smile growing. "Boo!" Carla jumped at Tina. "Bitch!" Tina cussed her out. "That's my girl." Luis smiled at her, lowering the book. "I got one." It better be a good one, Carla said, placing 2 fingers on the planchette. What's the name? El Monarca, Luis whispered. Hands on, please. Monarch? Love it, Dean said, pushing the planchette. M.O. Luis began reading something in Spanish, eyes glued to the book. The girls gave him death glares. N.A. The wind picked up, causing the house to creak and spreading the stench of rotten eggs. R. The door creaked open. The girls shivered. C. Luis dropped to his back, convulsing. Tina and Jenny screamed, jumping away and letting the planchette go. Dean chuckled, stopping the game, but James pulled the planchette to the last letter. H. Luis stopped convulsing, lying still on his back. Luis? Tina asked, but he didn't move. The wind howled, slipping in through the boards. Lou, that's enough, Carla said. Dean had a little lamb. Little lamb. Lou sang. His eyes still closed. You fuck, Dean grinned. James had a little lamb, his skin as black as coal. Luis! James shouted, but he laughed. That's not funny, Tina said. He was racist towards me, James said, placing a calming hand on Tina's shoulder. I think it was. And everywhere that guys went. And everywhere that guys went, I was sure to go. Luis sang, his eyes still closed. They let me in, let me in, let me. They let me in the old house at the end of town. Luis, cut it out, man, James said. You are freaking me out. His eyes shot open, staring at them, unblinking. Lou, come on, Dean shouted. There is no Luis here, only Monarch, Luis twitched. Dean felt real fear rush up his spine, and his mouth went dry. But no, there was no such thing as demons and ghosts. Lou's face twitched. Dean reflexively reached for his gun, eyes glued to the man. I'm just fucking with you. Luis sat up. You two shat yourselves. No, we didn't, James muttered. Well, I almost did, Dean said, letting the gun go. The hell is wrong with me? Why did that scare me so much? Honesty is good, Lou said, getting up. That's why you are my favorite. That was too much, Carla said. Dean shook his head, wanting to snort, but he couldn't look away from Luis. Something in the man's eyes seemed off. Come on, baby, it was just a little joke, he said, reaching for Carla. Don't ever do that again, she said. Dean blinked, finally realizing it. There was no warmth behind his gaze, just some strange pride, joy. He couldn't place it. I cross my heart, hope to die, he whispered, spreading his arms like a mock promise. His grin was just a little too wide. Come on, baby, give me some love. Was he still acting? Will he do another prank? She shook her head and smiled, grabbing his hand, letting him pull her into a kiss. He slammed her head against the Ouija board. The wood cracked under the impact. Blood sprayed. Dean's brain short-circuited, unable to comprehend the scene before him. He stared at his oldest friend as he stepped on his girlfriend's bleeding face, slowly pressing down, her face contorting under his foot. Lou, what the fuck? James shouted. Lou is gone, he said, his smile growing wide as Carla moaned under his foot. Jenny screamed, forcing him back into reality. His training kicked in. Neutralize the threat. Get to safety. Dean pulled his gun out. That's enough, man! A gun. Scary. Lou shook, putting even more weight on Carla's face. Something cracked. Dean fired twice. The gunshots tore through the old house. Bullets ripped through Luis, center mass, as they taught him in the academy. The man only smiled, his eyes glowing red. What? Dean stared at the impossibility. A man with 2 holes in his chest, laughing and stamping down. Carla stopped moving. Tina screamed. James grabbed her and ran. Dean did the same, straight for the door. No, no, Lou whispered, and the door slammed shut. You let me in. There is no going out. Dean grabbed the old doorknob and pulled. It didn't budge. The fuck? His mind screamed as he stepped back and kicked. Nothing. James spun, his gun roaring. 3 shots, all 3 hit. Lou didn't even flinch, staring them down. Then he began whistling, face stretching into a grotesque smile. We will play a little game, he sang, taking a step forward. Little game, of hide and go seek. Jenny began crying, and Dean pushed her behind himself, his gun still trained at the thing with red, glowing eyes. "I count to 10 and you hide," Luis said. "What?" James asked. 1, 2. All of them stood frozen in place. 3, 4. "We must move," Dean thought, grabbing Jenny and running deeper into the house. "James, run!" Dean and Jenny crouched in the dark room, away from the door and the windows, inside an old, broken-down closet. The only place they could actually hide. She shivered in his hands, pale and terrified, sobbing silently. He wanted to cry too, but he had to stay calm, think this through. There were no such things as demons. There simply weren't. He saw Luis in his mind's eye again, pressing down on Carla's head, smiling and singing. 2 holes in his chest, bleeding and still standing. His brain twisted in knots, looking for a logical solution. Drugs? He saw junkies take up to a minute to realize they were dead. But no, Luis wasn't a user. Adrenaline? No, couldn't be that either. James had a faithful girl. A faint, sing-songy voice reached them, and Jenny shuddered. "Lou fucked Dean's bitch. What? Dean blinked at the closed door, then down at Jenny. She was pale and totally out of it. Carla knew, so did James," Luis sang. It was Luis's birthday, and his only wish was her. Dean forced himself to ignore the singing, looking around for another way out. The only way out was the window, but it was boarded up, though the boards too looked rotten. The door creaked open, and Luis stepped in, the floorboards creaking under his feet. "Am I lying, or telling the truth?" he sang, walking around the room, the wood cracking under his feet. Ask her, and you shall know. Running steps echoed through the house. "It's hide and seek, not run and gun," Luis shouted and sprinted out. "Tina, you dumb girl!" He laughed, and she screamed. Gunshots echoed. "I have to help," he thought, and ran, leaving Jenny in the closet. He burst into the hallways just as James pulled the trigger again. A gunshot tore through the house, and Luis's shoulder jerked, but he didn't stop. He grabbed Tina and lifted her off her feet. James shot him again, but it had no effect. "Logic be damned!" Dean charged, ramming his shoulder into Luis's back. All 3 fell, and a vice iron grip grabbed his leg. Dean cried out, kicking. But Luis mounted him, eyes glowing red and grinning like a madman. James hit him from the side, and both went flying. Dean scrambled to his feet, pushing Tina deeper into the house, and jumped at the 2 men. They rolled. Dean ended up on Luis's back. He slammed the man's head against the floor and wrapped his hands around Lou's neck. He squeezed with all his might, but the man ignored him, pushing himself slowly up. Dean grunted, pressing and squeezing, but it had no effect. The shorter man stood. James punched Luis in the face, once, twice, thrice. "This is really fun," Luis laughed, not even defending himself. "Too bad it ends now." James swung again, and Luis grabbed his arm. It snapped like a twig. James shrieked. Luis rammed his fist down his mouth. Blood sprayed. Teeth clattered to the ground. Luis laughed, taking James's head into his hands. James had a faithful girl. He sang and twisted. James jerked and flipped to the ground. Tina screamed again, but Dean barely heard her, all his strength leaving him. He slid down to the floor, eyes glued to his best friend. Lifeless eyes staring back at him. "My Dean had a best friend. Luis sang again, stepping over James's body. "But he is now dead." James was dead. Dean reached for him, fingers hovering over the man's face. How could this be? James couldn't be dead. He couldn't. The skin felt hot under his fingers. Too hot, as if the man had a fever. Tina shrieked. Dean's head snapped up, hand still over James's face. Luis held her by the hair, his other hand caressing her face. Tina was a little lamb. He slammed her against the floor. "Luis killed James?" Rage ignited in his gut. His gun roared. Dean threw himself across the room. He tackled Luis. His gun clattered to the ground. They slammed into the wall. and Dean threw his oldest friend aside. Luis rolled, but he didn't give the man the chance to get up. Dean kicked him in the head. Luis laughed, rolling with the kick. "Take Jenny and run," he shouted, gripping his gun again. "That's madness," a Jew once said. Luis sat up, smiling as if they were just chatting over a beer. Dean fired 2 shots, but Luis walked into them like it was nothing. Dean fired another, before Luis grabbed his arm and slowly, tenderly took the gun. His hands were cold and hard, like ice. "Tina, run!" he shouted, trying to pull back. Luis let him, leaning the hot barrel against his own temple. "Madness, I tells ya," he fired, point blank. The bullet ripped through his head, exiting the other side. Blood and brains splashed on Dean's face. Dean froze, unable to move, unable to think, unable to look away. This couldn't be. Brain matter flopped onto the floor. "Demons aren't real? Did you ask her?" Lou asked. Dean blinked. "They couldn't be real. I must be on drugs." "You didn't?" He shook his head. Blood droplets flew through the air. Dean stared at the hole in the man's head. The bullet did nothing to him. How? Maybe I have brain damage? Oh well, you will find out soon enough. "What are you?" he croaked. "What?" Luis cocked his head, brain matter falling to the floor with a dull thump. "You did let me in. Did you not?" "Demons aren't real," he muttered. "You can't be real." "Oh, my honest man, I'm quite real," he said. Dean just stood there as Luis moved in closer. "You will be perfect," Luis said, fingers closing around Dean's jaw. "And together we will find Edward, Mateo, and George and get some revenge and have real fun. Sound good?" Dean wanted to run. He wanted to scream. He wanted to fight, but his body gave out. Luis leaned in and kissed him, his lips soft, his tongue cold and hard. Something warm entered his mouth. Like a snake, it slithered down his throat. Dean choked for a moment. Then he fell into darkness. Dean felt the wind on his skin. He felt the rotten wooden boards under his feet, and he watched the house move around him. Or was he moving through the house? "Mine," Monarch whispered in his mind. "Mine." Dean saw Tina through his eyes. She crawled on the floor, moving away from him. He saw his own hands reach for her. "No!" he screamed, trying to stop his body, trying to pull back, but he couldn't. His body didn't listen. "And all lambs go to slaughter." He heard his own voice, but he hadn't spoken. He saw his hands grab her ankles and pull her across the rotten boards. "No, stop!" He felt the muscles in his legs strain as it left the ground. He felt them tense and snap out as his foot stamped down, the world turning red. Her head exploded. "Why? Why?" he screamed. "Mine," Monarch answered, and it echoed all around him. "You are mine." "No, no." Dean tried to look away. He tried to close his eyes, but all his body did was reach for the doorknob. The door creaked open, and his body stepped inside a dark room, an old, broken-down closet pushed against the far wall. "No, no, please, no!" Jenny still hid there. He could hear her muffled cries. "Let me show you." The voice boomed all around him, and the room lit up. He cringed away, or he tried to, but his body didn't move. He felt lust like heat in his chest as the light faded, revealing Luis's living room. Party decorations hanging on the walls, but the whole room looked off, as if he had bent his knees or lost 5 inches. Then he saw himself, blacked out drunk, snoring on the couch, vomit covering his fine white shirt. Behind Dean's sleeping form stood a mirror, and he saw himself in it, inside Luis's body. "What?" His head turned to Carla and Jenny, laughing. Lust and need rose in him again. He had wanted Jenny for years, since high school, since their little fling. No, these weren't his thoughts, his feelings. Oh, he didn't love her. He didn't even like her. She nagged too much, but her body was perfect, and the girl was a freak in the sheets. Luckily, so was Carla. He extended his hand, and his girl smiled, kissing him. Her hands wandered down his chest and stomach to his belt. "No, please." Jenny joined them, both slowly going down on their knees. No, he tried closing his eyes. He tried looking away, but his body burned with lust, and so did hers. He could see it in her eyes. She wanted this. His chest clenched. his pulse spiking into panic. "Why, Jenny? Why?" "Told you." Monarch's voice tore through the memory, and Dean was back in the old, abandoned house. Jenny on her knees again, though this time she didn't lick her lips. She didn't hold eye contact. She didn't reach for his belt. Something cracked in him, deep hollow pain spreading through his chest. Was it true? Dean watched as his hands moved. He suspected it, but he watched, unable to look away or to stop himself, as Monarch used his body like a puppet. "Did you ever love me?" Dean asked her as Monarch used his hands to lift her up. "Was it all a lie?" Jenny screamed. Dean crumbled, pulling back, hiding deeper into his mind. "Nowhere to run," Monarch whispered in his mind. "You are mine. Mine." You've just listened to A Haunted House, a standalone short story set in my monster universe. I release new stories twice a week, with the monster universe and the collapse currently running side by side. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe for more. And don't forget to check out The Collapse for some zombie survival horror. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.